Hi, I am Ken Hill, Dr. Ken Hill, originally from South Georgia, a little town called St. Mary's, Georgia. I remember my conversion in 1972 of November under the leadership of Dr. Asbury Sellers was the evangelist on that time. Since then, I've gone from St. Mary's and gone to the military. Also, we have gone around, it seems like almost around the world in the ministry through the military and now completely in the Church of God. I remember a moment of time of history when Janice and I, who've now been married for almost 44 years, in Tifton, Georgia, 1973, I believe it was, when Dr. Asbury Sellers and Dr. Joe Jackson came together and asked the General Executive Committee if we could have a ministry called the Southeast Regional Fellowship, which comprised of 8 states. And at that time, it was for leadership development. It was for distinction and honor. It was for teaching and a platform where African descent ministries could be elevated. Today, I am the director of the African Descent Ministry of the Church of God. I also serve as a director of the Center for African Descent Studies under the PTS, the Pentecostal Theological Seminary, where we have a ministry now explicitly towards the African descent in teaching under the Westland Ministries portfolio. In South Georgia, 1973, when we came together, 8 states was recognizing the ministry of African descent. And it seemed to be that the church was moving forward. African descent or black ministry at the time was also getting some relevancy. However, it seemed like in different states that the platform was not available to those of the African descent community. We may have been ushers, we may have been doorkeepers, event supporters, but never on the platform as a major key player. So SURF, which is called now, was organized to help the African descent community basically become relevant and also to be able to participate when asked upon on the platform. We will have the training, we will have the knowledge, and the understanding of what our job may have been. I'm so thankful today that Dr. David Roebuck has asked me to do this interview, but also credence to him for helping us identify the African descent movement, the African descent contributions to the Church of God, mainly just recently recognizing Rebecca Barr as the first missionary in the Church of God. I'm thankful to be able to serve this great church in this position after serving as pastor, district overseer, administrative bishop, and now back as the director of African Descent Ministries of the International Church of God.
Do you recall some of the people who attended that first meeting in Tifton, Georgia?
Yes, Dr. Roebuck, I recall Dr. Joe Jackson at the time was the director of Black Ministries for the Church of God. Dr. Asbury Sellers was an evangelist, a national evangelist. Dr. Wallace Sibley, at that time, I believe he was pastoring, had been on the Council of 18, and he is also, his wife was there, my wife was there. We had pastors from Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, North Georgia, South Georgia, Western North Carolina, and Eastern North Carolina. And then we brought in recently Florida and Kentucky.
Do you remember about how many people attended, just a round number?
That initial meeting, we may have had 200 people coming together from those different 8 states. And we began to deliberate about how we could foster a relationship one with the other. As you know, in the previous years of our church, black men were state overseers. And so those states that came together, we had men of color or black men to be state overseers at that time. So there was a platform then, and we were rehearsing and bringing it back together again.
those who didn't know them, tell us a little bit about Joe Jackson, Asbury Sellers, Wallace Sibley. What are some of your memories about their ministries at that time?
Well, let me start with Dr. Sibley, who was also my pastor. He married Janice and I in 1977. He was the one that kicked me out of the church and made me go pastor or start preaching on the streets. He said to us that you can't just sit in the pulpit, you've got to get out and preach. And everybody can't preach on Sunday morning, so he told us to go preach on the streets. So we took our bullhorns, or we took our amplifiers and little small PA system, and we preached on the street corner. People got saved and came to know the Lord and joined the church. Alcoholics would come up and make fun of us preaching on the street corner, and the Lord would touch them, and they became saved. I know one man in particular, Brother Ford, who was known as the city drunk. He was waiting for the shop to open up every morning to get a drink before he go to work. But God miraculously saved him through that street ministry, and when he got saved, he became a deacon in the church. He became the bus driver and the van driver, and in fact, he lived 3 doors down from where I lived in St. Mary's, Georgia. And Dr. Sibley, as you know, became a third assistant general overseer in the church, a mentor of mine, and he was also my leader here in Cleveland when I was the director of multicultural ministries. And his wife is named his mother Sibley, Dorothy Sibley. Let's talk about Asbury Sellers. Asbury Sellers, Dr. Sellers now, was known as a itinerant evangelist. He evangelized all over the United States and Canada, Africa, and started out just preaching the gospel, having revivals. And the Lord blessed him. Now his son is preaching revivals and pastoring. Dr. Asbury Sellers was a go-getter. He was a person known for knocking on doors and barrier breakers. Dr. Sellers was the first person that I knew that preached the gospel that I even got saved on his ministry, and Janice did as well. Dr. Sellers was also the administrative bishop for New Jersey, and he became the director of Black Ministries, and then he went out full-time evangelist as an international evangelist. He preached many sermons, one that I so famously know and remembered, the nights the frog crow. Don't let the stink stop you. And he, the night that the devil came to church, and that was a really beautiful demonstration. He brought a casket into the church, white casket. Pallbearers brought it up, set it on the pedestal, and he preached a great homily. And when he finished, he told people to come by and see the devil. You know, the church was packed, outside, inside. And when we came to the casket, you wouldn't believe what was in the casket. There was a mirror in the casket. And everybody was looking at themselves. They're like, okay, come on. So, you know, Dr. Sibley, Dr. Sellers, and then Dr. Joe Jackson. Dr. Joe Jackson wrote a book about our heritage. He was from the islands of Jamaica, very well educated, Harvard University, and had done his dissertations on the African descent community, and ordained bishop. Dr. Joe Jackson was a great, also another barrier breaker with Dr. White and Dr. T.L. Lowry were some of his statesmen that helped him in the church. And Dr. Jackson did a great job as African descent or Black Ministries director, and he started broadening and the base of African descent in the church. Education he brought out more efficiently. He brought out putting people on different committees and boards in the Church of God. And he also was voted as one of those on the Council of 18. So Dr. Jackson, Dr. Sibley both served on the Council of 18. until Dr. Jackson moved back to Maryland and pastored a church there. And also at the SURF meeting was Dr. T.L. Lowry that was helping us. And later on, Dr. Robert White came down to help us organize the Southeast Regional Fellowship.
So 32 years later, how do you assess the value of SURF over the years and today?
Well, I'm a product of SURF. And I must say that the valuation of SURF today has helped many of our African descent brothers, not only just in the American black, but also in the Caribbeans and also in the connection with Africans as well as Haitian Jamaicans. SURF helped me to understand the leader that was in me that I did not see. He gave me a platform to preach on a national level. SURF inspired me to gain my doctorate degree, and also SURF positioned me now today be serving on the Council of 18. So from that little small beginning, as the scripture says, despise not the small beginning, that small beginning bred men like Asbury Sellers to be national. It bred Jimmy Campbell to be director of Black Ministry. It helped Dr. Sibley to get more exposure to become the third assistant general overseer in the Church of God. It helped other men to know their giftings. And today, as I just came back from SURF in Kentucky, the first time in Kentucky, great crowd, atmosphere was charged, great preaching ministry, and the folks were excited again about SURF initiatives across the board.
So let's go back to the beginning
Okay.
and St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's is legend
Oh, yeah.
in the Church of God among the black community.
Sure.
Tell us about St. Mary's and why so many people have emerged from there as ministers of the gospel.
Well, St. Mary's Georgia, is right across the Georgia-Florida line. So as you know, the inception of the great movement of the black community was from the Florida side. And it branched over into Georgia, and so St. Mary was right there, seaport town, so it was well known. That city produced many men of African descent to go into great leadership. It was a praying church. Noonday prayer was our signature. Every Monday through Friday was noonday prayer. When the mill whistle blew, you could know for surety that in St. Mary's, Georgia, prayer was going on for an hour from 12 noon to 1 o'clock. There was a big mill in our town. Men and women would come from the mill to church to pray. They may do 15, 20 minutes, run and get a sandwich, go back to work. But prayer was the essence of the Wheeler Street Church of God in St. Mary's, Georgia. Altar call, revival, family training hour, YPE, young people endeavors. All of those things were active in that church. Young people had their own choir, 30 to 40 voice choir with young people. People were getting saved. Mothers would get saved, come to church, bring their children. And the essence of the church was, if your husband is not saved, let's pray for your husband to get saved. Some men were not of the greatest character, but the wives loved their husband. And so those mothers would get together with her and pray. And they'll put you on the altar, and then we'll let you get up until there had been a deliverance. They will say, pray. They'll say, hold on. They'll say, let go. And revival was our signature in that city. And so people would come from all over the Camden County to St. Mary's, Georgia for revival. So I would say the contributions of that church was revival, the prayer initiatives, also the focus on young people, getting them saved, and community. We had a heart for the community. We wanted to see the people saved. And lastly, in St. Mary's, fishermen, because it was a seaport town, would come into the docks and bring in fish and whatever, and people would go down there. But more than that, Brother Roebuck, they began to pray for the fishermen to get saved, the people that worked at the mill to get saved. And St. Mary's Church grew till it didn't even have room enough to put the people in. So God really blessed St. Mary's. And from St. Mary's came Dr. Wallace Sibley. I came from St. Mary's. Dr. Sellers frequents St. Mary's often. Jimmy Campbell, a great evangelist named Frankie McDonald came out of St. Mary's. And most of these men also served in the international headquarters, or they served on the Council of 18. But Dr. Sibley was the only one that made it to the executive committee.
So, you just finished the 32nd meeting of SERF. What are your hopes for the future of SERF and for African Descent Ministries in the Church of God?
Well, that's a great question. I was just talking with one of the assistant general overseers, and I was saying about connectivity. SERF, which is called the Southeast Regional Fellowship, NERF, the Northeast Regional Fellowship. Then you have the Pentecostal Western Fellowship out in California, Oregon, Nevada, as well as Washington. And now Alaska has been added to that. And then you have our office, the African Descent Ministries, and the PTS side, the Center for African Descent Studies. Our desire and hope is to connect those together in a way where maybe memorandums of agreement, because SERF is a standalone ministry that has been supported and empowered by Church of God, but it is not owned by Church of God. It is owned by those 8 states constituencies. If we can connect all of those dots together to include states that have African descent ministries, and connect the dots to all of those so that the African descent community comes together. But what if we not only connect the African descent, but when I was in multicultural ministry, the desire was to connect African descent, Hispanic, the Indonesian that were in the United States, the Malayali Indian that have their own conference, Haitians that have over 2,000 in their conferences. So there's a large constituency. We can just connect those dots together. We'll have a great homily there of ministries to help the evangelism department that we just brought back into fruition.